Each week on Culinary Confidential, Christina Cates, a seasoned foodie who has worked at some of New York City's top restaurants, will share her passion for the culinary world. Whether you're a professional chef, a restaurant enthusiast, or a lover of good food, Christina dives into the heart of hospitality, exploring the trends, triumphs, and challenges facing the food service profession. And you won't want to miss her chats with some of the most interesting and influential industry voices. And now, please take your seat at the table as Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates starts now, exclusively on AM 970. The Answer.
Welcome to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates. This show is produced in association with my dear friend, Lucas A. Ferrara. I mentioned in the start of the year that I would take the show on the road a bit this year to explore dining and hospitality in other markets outside of New York and the tri-state area. And that's exactly what we'll do on the show tonight. I'm inching my way up the East Coast and doing a show all about Boston, Massachusetts. There is a vibrant and bustling dining scene happening in this New England city, and we're going to learn more about it together. I've invited on the show Alyssa Stevens to help be our tour guide of her favorite city. Alyssa is the editor of The A-List, a Boston-based lifestyle blog curating the best in food, style, and travel. But she is also the global director of PR, social media, and influencer marketing at Connolly Partners. Believe me when I tell you, Alyssa has her finger on the pulse and knows everything there is to know about food, beverage, and hospitality in Boston. Let me explain how I met Alyssa. Earlier last year, I was in St. Bart's on vacation and had dinner with friends at a restaurant named Bonito. Alyssa was sitting next to me with her husband having dinner. We never spoke. I follow Bonito on social media, and the next day, Bonito reposted something Alyssa posted from dinner that night. So when I saw it, I said to myself, oh, that's the woman that was at the table next to us last night. I clicked on Alyssa's page and saw it was full of posts about posh restaurants, travel adventures, and fashionable moments. I mean, that's literally everything that I love. So I started following her for over a year now, but we still never spoke. But when I had the idea to do a show about Boston, I said to myself, I think I need to be creepy and message Alyssa and let her know that, number one, I'm not a crazy person. And number two, I've been low-key stalking her for a year and love her content. And she happily agreed to come on the show, and here we are tonight. Alyssa is going to share with us what works in Boston and why some things don't. She's also curated for us a Best of Boston list for when you're visiting. It's literally a top list of things to do and see when you're there. Alyssa has invited on the show a friend of hers, Lisa Flores. Lisa is the director of sales and marketing for the Boston-based Columbus Hospitality Group. They have concepts under their umbrella that include Maestro, Sorellina, Ostra, Moo, Beacon Hill, Seaport, and Burlington. Lisa has a really impressive and extensive career in the hospitality industry, and I can't wait to talk to her later in the hour. Let me give a warm Culinary Confidential welcome to my co-host tonight, Alyssa Stevens. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Christina. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today.
So I think it's important to mention, Alyssa, that you did have your own radio show at one point when you were in college. Do you want to tell us about that?
Oh, my gosh. Well, that is a throwback. So I went to Northeastern University, and I decided to go up the first week of school to the little booth that WRBV, the Northeastern radio station, had. And I said, hey, I want to be an online broadcast journalist. Like, can I be involved with the radio station? And they looked at me like I was crazy, but I ended up meeting someone there that had his own show Thursday nights at 11 o'clock where he would play techno music. And he said he needed a co-host because his current co-host was abroad for the semester. And so second week of school, I ended up as a co-host on this radio station, and they made me my own little section of this techno show called Going Out with Alyssa. And I would talk about where I went that weekend in Boston and the different dishes I tried. I've always loved food. I've always loved going out and finding the latest restaurants and the latest things to eat and drink. And it sort of just was like the perfect introduction to Boston, being a freshman in college and getting to test out the waters on air.
Well, isn't this a full circle moment for you? Because now you are my co-host on the show tonight, and this is broadcasting in New York, the tri-state area, but then when it streams on the platforms, it's global. So you're doing what you do best, which is taking us around your favorite town tonight, and I can't wait to talk about it, because as you and I have spoken about off air previously, I've not been to Boston a ton. I've been there just a handful of times, but I can see that there's a buzzy little dining scene happening in Boston. And you're the lady to kind of tell us what's hot and what's not. So,
well, I can't wait to share more.
Yes.
You are absolutely right that there is a great culinary scene in Boston, but I feel like it's not on the map as many of the other cities in the U.S. So hopefully I can change the perception of our listeners today and share more about what's happening in Boston on that front.
Then let's dive right in. Where should we start? Let's just do like maybe an overview of the Boston dining scene. I did mention that we have Lisa coming on later in the hour, and she's going to talk to us about the concepts she's involved in. But let's talk first about prioritizing local chefs over celebrities.
Yeah,
You've told me that is kind of what's going on there.
What I love about Boston is it's a city, but it really kind of has that town feel to it. Like I constantly am running out to people I know when I'm out and about, and it's great to see these familiar faces, but that sort of goes to show you that even though you're in a city, it's a small city. And when we think about the dining scene here, we do prioritize our local chefs. And we've had a number of celebrity chefs that have come into Boston and brought either a new concept or an existing concept that has done well in other major metropolitan areas, and they haven't lasted.
Who were the
just
celebrity
to give you,
chefs?
A sampling of this, I'll give you a sample. Like people when I saw they were coming, I was thrilled. So we had Danielle Boulud, we had John George, we had Guy Fieri, we had Salt Bae, and their openings have a lot of energy and excitement, and people go to it, and then for whatever reason, they just sort of fall off the radar, and they don't have the business that they were hoping for, and they go in and out. And just between you and I having our first conversation and now, I was driving through main area of Boston, I saw the other Guy Fieri restaurant just recently went out. So he had two here, and now they're both gone. So just another example that speaks to this concept. But I guess on the flip side, we have amazing local chefs here that have been on the Boston dining scene for decades and continue to open new restaurants, and we support them. And they're doing an amazing job for our city in terms of the culinary expectation and raising that profile. So just a few to name out: Ken Oringer, Jody Adams, Jamie Bissonnette, Lydia Shire, Douglas Williams, Kieran Konovich, and they're expanding and succeeding. So I think that that's something to be really proud of, but I do think it's sort of a quirk of Boston that we don't welcome the celebrity chefs and keep them here for whatever reason.
You know, to be fair, as you're talking, I'm thinking in my own head, I don't actually dine at a ton of celebrity chef restaurants in New York. Like I did go a couple months ago to Danielle Boulud's new steakhouse, but outside of that, I kind of always look to go to more of the local chef scene too. But I guess it just works better in New York because it's a bigger city.
Yeah. And you know what I think it could be, too? I was thinking about this, as I was going through our discussion today. It could be that in New York City especially, or like a Las Vegas, so much tourism. So you're from there. You live near the city. So you're not going to necessarily go to these places. But think about all of the people that live in areas in the middle of the country that don't have accessibility to these fantastic restaurants or these celebrity-driven establishments. When they go to a big city, they think, oh, this is my time to go. So it could be that the tourism scene is really what's driving it in New York and Las Vegas and maybe even Chicago. But in Boston, that's not what they're coming to Boston to do. They're maybe coming to Boston to do the Freedom Trail and the other historical things. They're not thinking, oh, I have to go to the John George restaurant.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that.
That's what it is. Yeah, I think that could be what it is for at least Boston and why we're seeing that.
Do you have any Michelin star restaurants in Boston?
No, so that's another interesting little tidbit about Boston. We do not have any Michelin-starred restaurants because we're not in the Michelin Guide. However, we do have a number of the chefs that I mentioned previously, as well as others that I didn't name, that are James Beard Award winners, and we've had many finalists and semifinalists over the years. But that's another thing I do feel that tourists, when they come to a city, will look to see, okay, what are the Michelin-starred restaurants? And in Boston, that is not how we deem what's a great restaurant or not.
Boston is not getting the respect it deserves. Maybe that'll change after tonight.
But what is fascinating about Boston is I think from those that don't live near here, you may have these visions of New England fare and that traditional chowder and lobster rolls and Boston cream pie. But there is a ton of global influence in the city.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the amazing universities, all of the fantastic hospitals that are here. That's bringing in an international crowd. And as a result of that, we are seeing Middle Eastern restaurants pop up, Indian, Greek, Mediterranean. So you really sort of have all of these things at your fingertips from these local chefs, from these up-and-coming chefs. And we always joke that when we visit other countries or other cities that we're so spoiled in Boston because we have these really traditional, amazing cuisines at restaurants that other places almost pale in comparison because we have the taste of the real deal right within our own city walls. So I think we have to make sure that people realize, like, yes, come to Boston and get all of that fantastic seafood, but don't miss out on the other things that are happening here on the restaurant and hospitality scene.
Let's talk about liquor licenses, because I always find it fascinating how they vary from city to city or state to state. What's like the protocol for a liquor license for an establishment in Boston?
So Boston has a set number of liquor licenses, and in order to get a new liquor license, you either have to pay a high fee to get it, like a restaurant has to close and they transfer the license to you, or you don't open in Boston, you open in a surrounding area. So we're seeing quite a bit of a boom in terms of experimentation with restaurants and food and cuisine happening in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Harvard is in their backyard, MIT, and now we have these great restaurants that are popping up there because it's easier to get a liquor license. And the rents are also cheaper for the actual restaurant. Somerville's another one, Jamaica Plain, even Lynn, which is a suburb north of Boston. They have an amazing restaurant there where the chef is James Beard, recognized chef. So a lot of this has to do with the liquor licenses because people expect that full experience when they're going out. And for the restaurants, it's incredibly expensive, and it's can be a long process in terms of how they can get it. The other fun fact about Boston tied to liquor is that we don't have any happy hour. So we can't discount liquor in Boston. And
wait a minute, stop. After work, you leave work and you just go to a bar and pay regular price for a drink? There's no happy hour?
Yes. They will often have a happy hour menu that is food only. So you'll see discounted bar bites, but no alcohol. And it actually was enforced back in the 1980s to try to curb drunk driving. And it's been an issue and a topic that has brought up multiple times throughout the last 30, 40 plus years. And it continues to get voted down. So that is something that is fun when I go to other cities because I like to enjoy the happy hour deal.
Yeah.
We don't have it here in Boston. It's like a foreign concept. We also close at 2 a.m., which is another interesting. Boston, we're a very puritanical city, so we don't allow happy hour, and we have a bedtime.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that actually does sound delightful for me now that I'm 41. But, 20 years ago, I would have had a problem with that for sure. But I think it's interesting that you were mentioning the high rents are pushing some of these restaurants out of like the Boston proper, because we've seen it in New York as well. Everyone used to come to Manhattan for everything. And now you have these dining scenes that are popping up in Brooklyn and Queens. I mean, and even in New Jersey, because the rents are so high in New York, everything got pushed out. But guess what? Now the rents are even high in some of those outer boroughs. Is that also kind of happening in Cambridge and Somerville?
Yeah, I think we're going to continue to see that trend here as well. Right now, that is the spot that they're opening. Dorchester is another area of Boston that we're seeing quite a few new restaurants pop up and that are doing fantastic things. But there's demand for these new experiences, these amazing restaurants and different flavors. But unfortunately, there's like that risk-reward factor where if they invest in a location on Newbury Street, which is our main shopping street here in the Back Bay, the rent is so high that if they can't succeed, they can't bring in the business, they're going to be at a loss. Whereas if they go to one of these surrounding areas, there's not as much risk associated with the cost of testing out a concept. And for those that live in Boston, these places aren't far to go to a new restaurant in, but it's certainly not like walking down the street and being able to go to one of the neighborhoods here in the city.
Right. I did go to a fantastic restaurant. I think it was on Newbury Street, Salty Girl.
Oh, yeah, delicious seafood.
Yeah, and that was great. Now, we talked about, again, off air beforehand, the private members club Quinn House, which for someone like me, I've traveled around the world. I've been to a ton of members clubs. I was actually very impressed with Quinn House because there's a culinary drive in that place that isn't as present in some of the other concepts like, Soho House and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about what they do at Quinn House, like the diversity in the restaurant offerings they have?
Yeah, so there's several different dining establishments at the Quinn House. And for our listeners, what the Quinn House is it took over the Algonquin Club, which was a very traditional members-only club here in Boston, the Back Bay. It's in a gorgeous building that was built in the late 1800s specifically for use as a social club. And several years ago, two members of the community bought the building and reimagined it. They call it a club for the interesting and the interested. And they really tried to curate a member list that was diverse. Leaders, creators, innovators, artists, influencers. And so they didn't want your typical club members. They really wanted a mix of people to have these curious conversations with one another. And part of that occurs over dining at these restaurants. And so one of them is Latin infused with Peruvian influence, really fantastic. There's a Japanese steakhouse. There's more of sort of a 3-day part, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner in one of the restaurants, and that's more Mediterranean. And then, of course, there's that casual sort of laid-back London pub style where you can get your nachos, your burgers, your hot dogs. So they really tried to tap into every type of diner, from the casual to the more sophisticated palate, and those wanting something from that Latin flavor.
Well, they did a great job, and they have that little rooftop situation. They have that speakeasy.
They have a lovely rooftop.
Right? There's like, you press something
so,
and the door
they have the
opens up.
speakeasy. Yep. Yeah, you can press. There's a little room that you can listen to records in. And so that's kind of like a hidden speakeasy. So for our listeners that are visiting Boston, you have to find somebody that's a member so they can sign you in and you can experience it. Because right now it's not open to the general public. And
the wait list, I know, to become a member there is like years long.
I have heard that, yes.
You have to be in somebody's top 3 to get like an expedited referral.
I'm sure, yeah. You have to be patient and you have to hopefully have something interesting to say.
I hope they open one in New York. I would totally join if they opened up one in New York. I was actually that impressed with it, to be honest with you.
Oh, I love that you say that. That's great to hear.
Yeah. Alyssa, we're going to go to commercial break, but when we get back, we're going to get Lisa on the line, Lisa Flores from Columbus Hospitality Group, and we're going to talk to her because she's part of some amazing restaurant concepts in Boston. So stay tuned. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back. I'm back with Alyssa Stevens, Boston socialite and editor of the A-List. But joining us now is Alyssa's friend, Lisa Flores, Director of Sales and Marketing for Columbus Hospitality Group. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Oh, thank you so much, Christina and Alyssa. I'm so excited to be on this show.
I want to know, how do the two of you know each other?
Oh, my goodness.
Would you like to explain, or do you want? All right.
Yeah. I mean, Alyssa, you explain, because I feel like we've known each other for 1,000 years, definitely.
Yes. So Lisa manages the events at one of my favorite restaurants, which she'll be speaking about in a bit, called Mistral. And we actually had our rehearsal dinner in their Salon du Mistral, which is their private event space, back in 2011. So I worked with Lisa then, but we never met face-to-face. And then just this past fall, we were both invited to a women's networking dinner, and she had the most beautiful silk scarf on. And so I approached her and complimented her scarf, and then we realized that we had a million mutual connections and that I was part of the fan club of Columbus Hospitality Group, and the rest is history.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, tell us what's going on at Columbus Hospitality Group.
Oh, I feel like everything is going on. It is, I'm coming into my 24th year with this restaurant group, so I was born and raised here. Oh, thank you. The Columbus Hospitality Group, so we are based in Massachusetts. We own 6 restaurants, which include Mistral, Ostra, Sorolina, and the Moose Steakhouse brand, as well as 2 hotels, 15 Beacon and the Inn at St. Botolph. We also own a white corn tortilla chip company called Mi Niña, and we're opening a pizza place called Mary.
You guys own that?
That's ours. Yeah.
Oh, my! Those are my favorite.
Oh, I'll send packs of chips.
The jalapeno, they're like almost like a sweet. Oh, my God. Yeah. It's the best chip ever invented.
Yes, that's us. So, it was a little passion project from our chef owner, Chef Jamie Mamano, and it's grown into a very successful business. So he's doing very well. So, yeah.
I'm shook by that information right now. I'm still processing it. I'm not even kidding you. Okay, awesome. Yeah. All right, so you are the director of sales and marketing. That's a tough job. Can we talk about some sales strategies? Like, what are the key factors that drive sales success in the hospitality industry, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. This is something I always think about, but there's so many. But to me, one of those most important ones is really knowing your guest, creating and cultivating your relationships, knowing their anniversaries and their birthdays, their life stories, their preferences.
Yeah.
And just really creating this sense of special and, making your guests feel like they're the only person in the room with you. People come back when they feel special. So I always say, to me, that's one of the most important facets of running a very, successful program. And then also just being consistent. I think one of, the thing that we really strive on is consistency, and it's staffing and service, food, quality. Everything we do is consistent from start to finish, which I find to be extremely important in this industry.
What inspired you to pursue the career in hospitality? Because you could have done sales and marketing for anybody.
When I was in college, I think, I went to college at Boston University, and, like everyone else, I was a hostess. I kind of fell into it, and I saw that the restaurant, we had Mistral, and that was where I initially worked out as a hostess. It was just so consistent. Everything we did, there was a procedure, a protocol, the way that they really welcomed guests in. And I just kind of was like observing at that time. I was a part-time hostess on Fridays and Saturdays, and it was very exciting. We get celebrities all the time. And I was like, this is home. Like, this is a place where I think I can really thrive and grow at. And that's, how this entire restaurant group has grown. It's like really relying on the people that have been here for a long time to make it successful. And really, the owners are wonderful. They really take into account our opinions. They want to know, they want to know what we think is best for the business.
Wow. So you started at Mistral as a hostess, and now you're the director of sales and marketing. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you. I love it.
Let's talk about Mistral. When did it originally open?
We opened in June of 1997, so a very long time ago in the South End in Boston, and it was, there wasn't much around this area at the time, and now, it's a really bustling neighborhood now. It was a hard area to get to because you would, take a taxi. Uber didn't even exist then. You would take a taxi and jump out, and it was, kind of an isolated area. And one of our owners, Paul Roy, he's a real estate developer, so he had purchased the building we were in, and he was developing it. So he really wanted to put a restaurant in the space. And our chef owner, Jamie Mamano, and Paul Roy, they came together, and they created this really wonderful concept that's been very successful. And, it's a great French Mediterranean restaurant, just very warm and welcoming. But, it's Alyssa's favorite. She loves it. It's so good. She's always at our bar.
Is this true, Alyssa?
Yeah, it feels incredibly elegant, but at the same time approachable. So you could walk in and have your Valentine's Day or your anniversary dinner there, but like Lisa said, you could also just pull up and have a seat at the bar and get a martini and their beef tenderloin mashed potato pizza and have like a really chill evening too. So it's great for so many different things, but it feels elegant and elevated, I guess are the two E's that I would use to describe it.
Exactly. It doesn't feel stuffy. You just feel right at home. It's very welcoming.
I think that's great. What do you think are the most effective marketing channels for hospitality businesses today? Maybe like social media and digital marketing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely those two. So, we always try to stay relevant. This landscape is always changing. There's new competition coming in all the time. And I feel social media is incredibly important and really committing to your brand. I think while everyone else tries to be trendy all the time, I do everything I can just to remain consistent and be in line with who we are.
Well, like brand identity, knowing who you are too.
Yeah, exactly. I am called the brand police at work because I'm constantly saying this is not part of our brand. This doesn't reflect our brand. We're not doing this. So, the executive team, if they're thinking of an idea, they come to me right away. They say, what do you think about this? Like, will this work for us? And I'm always like, let's make it our own. But, sometimes I'll say, we're not doing that. That's a terrible idea. It really is, our guests love us for, us. They love us for our great food and service and our quality. And, I definitely think, being on social media, there's so much, like, even just, digital marketing. I do a lot of the influencer marketing. Mm-hmm. And what I do is, a lot of restaurants will wind up inviting an influencer in and having them come in for dinner with a friend. And, it's a very kind of just come have dinner piece. I actually wind up dining with the influencer. So I invite them in, I sit and have dinner with them, and I really cultivate a very genuine relationship with them. And, we become more than partners. We're friends. And this is really how I've gotten to work with so many incredible influencers that have had, helped spread awareness to, kind of different, younger demographics out in kind of social media, which has been super helpful. But, I really find that helps. And, even word of mouth referrals, like while it may sound antiquated, there's no better review than a recommendation from a colleague or a friend.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think if you do nothing else than have dinner with those influencers, I think that alone is a home run. I talk about this so much on the show about how these younger influencers, anyone with a smartphone can come into an establishment and they can make or break your concept, because they have millions of followers. They don't always have the culinary background knowledge, right? They just like to go out. So if you're sitting with them, guiding them about the history of the restaurant group and what you hope to achieve, I mean, you're holding their hand. I think every restaurant owner or marketing person who's working for the restaurant should be doing that. I think that's so incredible.
Oh, thank you. I really love it. Like, I have a bunch of influencer friends. They become my best friends, and we're all rooting for each other. I help them with their ideas. If I need, help spreading a new, dinner item, they'll come in and do anything. And it's never for compensation. It's for, we're friends. We're supporting each other. So it's been really beneficial, and they're all, really an incredible group as well.
Lisa does a great job because the partners that she chooses to dine there feel authentic. It doesn't look like somebody that wouldn't naturally dine at the restaurant. She's just curating the experience for them to make sure that they're trying the best of the best on the menu and capturing in a way that's relatable to their audience and really sort of provides that crave-worthy experience that they want to come and dine at the spot.
I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier in the segment about making it personal, the key to success. You're giving them a personal experience of the restaurant. I mean, that is just a great idea. I love that you're doing that. But what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that businesses face in sales and marketing today?
It all varies, but I do, I just take every, the market is definitely saturated, right?
Yeah.
Competition is always a thing that we're looking at, but I don't even look at this as a challenge. It's something that it keeps us on our toes. I'm like, we always have to reinvent, be proactive. It is hard right now. I think it is like every industry. It's the workforce, right? We are looking for our company specifically, we want really talented, passionate, committed individuals. And I think that has been a little bit more difficult to find in the last years. And that's another reason why I teach as well. I teach at Boston University. I really try to teach the younger generation about the hospitality industry to bring them into our workforce. That's definitely something I always try to focus on.
But how do you bridge the gap between the academic learning side and the real world industry side when you're teaching?
Well, it's funny. I teach at Boston University School of Hospitality, and they have a wonderful, the school is fantastic. When you're in academia, I do tend to notice that a lot of the professors are not necessarily, they're full-time teaching, and they're not actually in the industry anymore. So I'm very relatable to the students. I'm younger. They really love me. They're so great, so smart, really willing to learn. And I give them real life scenarios all of the time where I'm saying, last night a bus pulled up from a convention and some of the members of the group, they seemed a little drunk. What would you do? Or someone threw up. What would you do? And this is what they want to hear about. They want to know exactly what's happening in the moment in a restaurant. They don't want to know what happened maybe 20 years ago. I give them these situations like, how would you prepare yourself for this? What do you think we should do? And I tell them about situations that have happened, bad decision-making on the management team, what we could have done better. I poll them all the time. And, and I take them out into the world and I bring them into the restaurants. We do site tours and we really kind of meet with other industry professionals so they know exactly what's happening. And I think my class is always, packed and it's very well.
I want to take this class.
Oh, yeah, it's a great class. Oh, thank you. And the students want to learn. They want to hear about what's happening. And that's, I think, the most important part.
So before we go to the break, Lisa, I want to talk briefly about you started a society for event planners on top of everything else that you do. Can you expand on it?
Of course. So, I started this organization back in 2017-ish. It's called SERV. It's the Society for Event Planners Restaurant Venues. And we're a networking group for anyone in the restaurant industry. And in particular, it is for restaurant event planners, but it's expanded to vendors and to just industry professionals. And we do, quarterly seminars focusing on, a wide range of topics. It could be anything from, social media or communication externally and internally, just different strategies to really help you grow your business. I found myself working with so many young green event planners that didn't know what they were supposed to be doing and weren't really taught. So I really started mentoring and educating, and I was like, let's formalize, let's make this a real organization. And we have hundreds of members. It's done incredibly well. We relaunched over the last couple of years, and we're just kind of getting the ball rolling and really getting back out there, and it's really well received. And all the events, they're really well attended. We do a lot of mixers as well, just like little parties that we can just, also enjoy life, I would say.
How many people do you kind of have in this society of sorts?
So in Boston, it's mainly consists of 200 event managers. I would say about 100 vendors, around 300. It depends.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good because it could be a couple of different people in different positions for each restaurant as well. And people love it. It's where you network and it's where you exchange ideas and you refer each other. So it's been really helpful to just really solidifying the event planning business.
I love it. Lisa, thank you so much for your time tonight. I wish you all continued success. Sounds like you're doing everything you can amazingly in Boston. You have your hands in a lot of pots. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, when we get back from the break, we are going to talk more with Alyssa, and she's pretty much holding our hand. She's curated a best of list if you're visiting Boston, whether you're looking for a girls' night out, the best martini, the best burger, wine bar. So stay tuned. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970. The Answer.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, the show is all about Boston. There's a buzzy little dining scene happening up the coast here, and Alyssa Stevens is back on the show to talk to us about it. Alyssa, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
All right, so you created a best of list if you're visiting Boston. Where should we start? Do you want to start with lobster rolls? Do you want to start with the best nightclub, even though it's going to close at 2 a.m., but we'll see?
I think we should start with lobster rolls, because
Okay.
I do think that when somebody comes to New England, especially Boston, that is something that they are craving.
Yes.
So if you want the best lobster roll, you actually need to head to Neptune Oyster. So this is a tiny little spot, and it's located in the north end of the city. And people think of the north end as our little Italy, but tucked on Salem Street is Neptune Oyster. And the best part about their lobster roll is you can get it hot, so with butter, or cold. And I personally love hot lobster rolls, and they're somewhat hard to find. So that's why Neptune Oyster is my personal favorite. No reservations, so you're going to expect a wait, but I
little bit of a
recommend going
wait.
in an
Yeah.
off time. Yep, go grab a drink somewhere, wander around. You can see Paul Revere's house in the
Ooh.
north end. There are many different historical sites. The Old North Church is right up the street. And then hopefully you can get into Neptune Oyster and have this great lobster roll. And, of course, a dozen oysters, too.
Yes. Okay, next on the spot. We have our lobster roll. Now where are we
We
going?
have our lobster roll. Okay, so after the lobster roll, I feel like you need to have a delicious martini. And I am one, I'll go gin or I'll go vodka, I'll do olives, I'll do lemon twist. And the best one in Boston is at Grill 23. And this is not only the best one, it's the iciest one. I don't know how they do it, but their glasses are actually like encrusted with ice. So it almost looks like it's got rock candy around the rim and around the actual martini glass, but it's just crushed ice. So good and so refreshing after a long day of exploring the city. Grill 23 is a steakhouse here in Boston, and they also have fantastic steak, and the wine list is phenomenal. They have a secret wine room. You have to get invited in by the sommelier. It's downstairs. And
Clearly
that can
you've
kind of
been.
create a really cool experience, but the martini can not be missed.
That does sound, I don't drink martinis, but that description was fire. Like, it sounds fantastic.
Really, really good. And if you don't like traditional martini, I think they could do it with a Cosmo or some other drink that's served straight up. So
Perfect.
excellent icy martini there. And then I think Italian maybe would be my next place to go. So best Italian. Again, we have the North End that people attribute to all of the great Italian restaurants. Definitely awesome food there. It's more of like your traditional red sauce, meatballs. But my favorite Italian restaurants are not in the North End of Boston. We have two restaurants in Cambridge, Julia and Pammy's, that I think are absolutely fantastic. You have to make reservations well in advance, but they're both on typical systems like an Open Table or a Resi. And the food is just phenomenal. It's a little bit different. It's not like your traditional, again, red sauce Italian. They're incorporating unique flavors, spices, and absolutely fantastic and beautiful, cozy date night decor in there as well. The others that I wouldn't miss are Copa and SRV. Both of those are in the south end of Boston, and they're some of my favorites. At SRV, they have this menu called the Arsenale menu, and it's a set menu where you have sort of the chef's whim. They bring out a number of different things across the menu, and they guide you through it, and it's a great way to sample everything. I always say SRV is funky, innovative Italian. You look at the menu, and you're like not really sure what the dish is going to taste like that you ordered just based on the ingredients, but it always ends up being like absolute wow when you put it in your mouth.
Wow.
And I always say, if I have a wow moment, I'm going back to that restaurant.
Totally.
So SRV and Copa are two that are great in the South End.
Okay. Next up, should we talk like date night
Burgers?
spot? You want to do burgers?
Okay, yeah, we can. Let's do burger, and then I'll go to date night.
Okay.
So best burger. every once in a while I crave a burger, but if I'm going to get a burger, it has to be like really good, juicy, well-made. And my favorite burger in Boston is actually at the Street Bar. And this is a street-level bar. Obviously, you can figure out by the name, Street Bar, in the Newberry Hotel. It's right on the Boston Public Gardens, so beautiful views during the day. They have a phenomenal burger. It's just classic. There's nothing funky about it, but it's always perfectly cooked. And that's another spot that just has this sort of great old-world ambience. They have a fireplace, so it's cozy in the winter, darker tones on the wall, books that line the shelves. So Street Bar in the Newberry is great. And on the top floor of that hotel is actually Contessa, which is another amazing restaurant.
I've been there.
It is. That's right. I forgot that you went there. So that's
I went there for a
before.
Boston cream pie.
There you go. And what's cool about Contessa, fun fact, is it's the same interior designer as the Quinn, Ken Folk. So he did the interiors for both of those spots. Really beautiful, fun, eclectic color palette, and just so photogenic.
Yes. The place is stunning. Next on the spot, where are we going?
Okay. Date night. So I sort of already teased this out, but Mistral has been a longtime favorite of mine. We've obviously had our rehearsal dinner, so there's special memories. I had my college graduation dinner there. We are going there for special occasions, but then we also just go for a regular date night. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, is it really can be applicable to so many different dining out scenarios. And as Lisa mentioned, it's high-touch customer service, excellent food, and just a really beautiful, sleek ambiance. So Mistral is a not to miss. All of the Columbus Hospitality Group restaurants are my favorites and really some of the best in the city and just consistently good.
Perfect.
Okay, so if you're going out with your girls, this is where you have to go.
I'm listening.
Yvonne's and Marielle. Those are two Coge hospitality restaurants. They have several in the city, and all of them are just so fun. The decor is very cool, sort of sexy, low lighting, interesting chandeliers and decor throughout, but then the vibe is just very, very buzzy. And the cuisine is obviously fantastic, too. They do a great job of having a mix of small plates with some large format, so you can mix and all share things, or you can get a big thing for the table and enjoy that as well. But Yvonne's and Marielle are fantastic for that. And they also have a nightclub as part of their hospitality group that I would recommend if you want to go dancing. Caveau is fantastic for that, and it's got a really cool ambiance, almost like an Alice in Wonderland theme.
Interesting.
Yeah, like things look upside down when you look up. They have really cool like laser system and sound system in there. So if you are looking
Alyssa Stevens is no stranger to a night out, so I'm going to take your word for it on the girls' night out spots. Okay, perfect. All right, give me a good hotel bar. I love hotel bars.
I love hotel bars, too. I don't know what it is, but they're some of my favorites. And we have a few here that I would really recommend. We recently had the Raffles Hotel Group open here in Boston. It's their first U.S. location. It's right in the Back Bay. The hotel is absolutely stunning, and their long bar and terrace is beautiful. It has this beautiful outdoor area, but the inside is equally as nice, really, really high, large windows that overlook the city, and just a really lovely atmosphere any time of year. They also have a speakeasy called Blind Duck in the Raffles Hotel, which is another spot that's great for cocktails. Right around the corner from the Raffles is one of my favorite hotels. Hotel I got married at is the Fairmont Copley Plaza. And this is just your traditional old world Boston hotel. Like beautiful tiling and detail throughout. And the Oak Long Bar is fantastic. And that's another spot that you can just cozy up. They have a fantastic menu that's kind of across the board, really approachable, fireplace, and cozy booths that you can sit in. And the bar, as the name describes, is long. So there's many spots that you can sit at, but the best spot is at the end. It is the love seat bar seat, and it's for two people. So instead of having individual bar stools that you're sitting next to someone on, there's one seat at the bar. Maybe there's two of them on either end that you can sit next to the person that you're with. So if you can snag that one,
that's
really
the perfect seat, huh?
Perfect seat, yeah. And there's great history at that hotel. It opened at the turn of the century and has really maintained its presence and the nods to that time period throughout.
All right, so if I'm in Boston, I'm in New England, I need to know where to go for seafood.
So many fantastic spots that sort of run the gamut of those traditional lobster rolls like we talked about with Neptune oyster, or more of the elevated seafood. So I would say if you're thinking best seafood, you want that elevated experience that's still really true to New England, Mooncusser is a fantastic option. It's fine dining, but it doesn't feel stuffy, and they have fantastic pieces of fish, cuts of fish, and lovely for a date night or if you're going out with friends. The other one is Ostra. That's actually a Columbus Hospitality Group as well, and little weird thing that I love about Ostra, but they have fantastic chargers. So when you
chargers for your phone,
if Lisa was still on, she would laugh. No, like plate, like chargers.
Oh,
like
underneath the plate. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So they used to have horseshoe crabs. I think it's still that, but they're just like really beautiful, and it adds to this like sleek decor that they have throughout in the seafood theme. But fantastic raw items there, as well as the entrees are just phenomenal. But you have to love seafood to go there because it's a very heavy seafood menu. I think they do have one steak on the menu, but it's primarily for seafood lovers.
Well, Alyssa, you stacked our night. I mean, how long do you think I should be in Boston for to check out all these places?
I don't know. I feel like you could hit up these and even some more that I didn't touch on. So I think you just have to make frequent trips.
Frequent trips. Okay, perfect. Well, maybe if I become a member at the Quinn, I'll just be living there at that point.
There you go. Or we can meet at Grill 23, and I'll convince you to have an icy martini with me.
Perfect. Thank you for listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on AM 970 The Answer. Tune in next week to see what city we land in. Thanks for listening, and have a great night.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.